Okay, in the transport, of course, we have the mode shift that everybody talks about. Lots more walking and cycling, and a large proportion of shared vehicles. You still have lots of cars in the system, but they're much more shared. We reduce weight, and it's mostly an electric transport system. So there's the mix. In terms of passenger miles, it's still more than half is still private cars of one kind or another, but they might not be quite so private. There might be a lot of shared ownership for cars. Otherwise, lots of things like that. So it's not completely unimaginable. We can make that stack up. The total miles are smaller, so it's a bit of a smaller pie than we've got now. Now this is very important. This is the the red bar is the effective demand for energy for the UK, and the other bit at the bottom is all our great bonanza of fossil fuels that we discovered in the 70s. And you can see for a long period we've actually had a surplus that we've been able to sell. That's over now. Those good times are over, and now we've got to seriously replace that. So there's good economic reasons for making a big switch anyway, new investment in new energy. So I think we'd like to say we'd like to reproduce that, but entirely with renewables instead of sort of fossil fuels. But of course the red line will actually start to come down. So in terms of the mix for electricity and heat, the exploded bit is the heat bit, and the rest is the electricity bit. Now this is quite interesting. So it's a largely electric economy that we've created, and most of it is wind power. And working out how you can run it with that much wind power has been one of the big exercises that we've been doing. When you put the transport in, there's the exploded bit is the transport bit. So that's all the energy going into the system, and you can see again dominated by wind power. Now, how are we going to do this? We are going to use the offshore resource. That's very large. So the amount that we've got in the planning system at the moment, represented by that 33 gigawatts, that's the amount of offshore space that would be taken by that installed capacity. And the 195 is what we're aiming at, and it would take that much space. But of course, it would be distributed all around British territorial waters marked by the line. Okay, we know the stuff is there. The problem is it's very variable, but we are proposing, I mean, we're not alone here, this is the latest discussion, is with international grids, particularly offshore grids to link all the offshore technologies, and then they link themselves into international grids where different kinds of renewable sources are mixed and matched, so that over the whole of the continent you get a reliable supply. Now, this is importantly different from some models which just try to have a little Britain trying to do it all on its own. We found we couldn't make the sums match up, so we just assumed that there is some kind of international system. So when we have surpluses, as often we will in Britain, we'll be able to sell them into the European grid, and when we don't have enough, we'll be able to buy from the European grid. It does stack up. And so well, I won't go into this in detail, but this is roughly what it's going to look like. You can see that big green bit, that's the big wind bit, and we're also selling a fair amount of electricity into the, so we'll be net exporters of energy. Okay, now let me talk a bit about the net negative processes, because that has a big bearing on the land. Remember that diagram? You've got the green bit at the bottom. What is that? Well, some other studies have done it in a different way. So the Institute of Mechanical Engineers have done something rather similar to us in a way, except they've only gone down to 80%, but they probably could do zero. They've got nuclear power, they've got CCS, and lots of renewables as well. That's their power up side of things, so slightly different from us. They don't want to do any lifestyle stuff. They're engineers, they don't believe in that sort of thing. So they've got lots of technical measures to power down, but basically they're trying to power up by putting a lot into it. But they still do need some net negative processes, and they're using mechanical air capture. So you can see in the background, you can see some tower blocks there, but their principle is every time you build a tower block, you have to build another structure of similar size next to it to suck up all the CO2 that is being emitted. and then it is turned then into some other chemical form and then stored down old oil wells or various things like that. This is what we refer to as carbon capture and storage. And those other sort of lollipop-like things, they're artificial trees. They're also mopping up. Okay, now people are giggling a little bit. This is serious stuff, and I think that it would be worth doing research on this because we might need this stuff, so don't laugh at it. But in our scenario, we've decided we're not going to do that. We're going to use the proven method of photosynthesis, which has been going on for quite a long time. So now, what the result is, we've actually had to make over the entire land. But basically, we are using about half of the land either for energy, biomass, or for sequestration biomass. There's still plenty of land for food, and there's plenty of land for other things, but basically we're doing that. And you say, gosh, there isn't that much. Well, there is. It depends what else you're doing with it. Interesting enough, that area was the area we used to use for horses. In 1904, when at the peak of the horses, we used to use a very, very large area of Britain for growing biomass crops for the transport system. We've forgotten about that. So we have sort of been here before. Okay, so now in terms of actually how it might affect the food system, what we've done in the report is we've analysed the basic food sectors there. You can see on the right the livestock sector, and in the middle is the crop sector, and then at the far end you have the net negative sequestration parts. You see they're below the line. There is a certain amount of net negative going on already. Now, actually, the black bars represent the carbon emissions from each of those sectors, and you can see it's not surprising to anybody, I'm sure, that the livestock sector has much higher emissions than the crop sector. But interestingly also, if you look at the red dots, that represents the amount of land occupied by that particular subsector, and again you can see the livestock uses up a lot of land and the crop sector much less. The green bars are the nutritional value that comes out of those things. So broadly speaking, I mean, there are arguments to be had about the details here, but broadly speaking, you can see there's one extremely inefficient part of a system that uses up most of the land, produces most of the carbon emissions, and doesn't do much in nutritional terms. So that's basically what we've snatched that bit and we've used that for the decarbonisation processes. So in the scenario, it looks like that. Much more of the food is produced by the crop sector. There's still quite a bit of livestock sector, but and they still have the highest carbon emissions, but still it's much reduced, and that land is then used for the black bars on the left, you can see, with the sequestration processes. So if you sort of look, so make your eyes go a bit blurred, and you can sort of see how much black there is on the left and how much black there is in the middle. You can see we've not only brought it down to zero, that sector, we've actually got a net negative sector, which has got a surplus of about 50 million tonnes or something to hand over to the rest of the UK economy to help bring it back down to zero. Ideally, we'd like to have a net negative economy, although sub-zero Britain didn't sound quite so good. But, okay, so we had a few unexpected benefits. Oh, look, 15 seconds here. We found, actually, look at all these things. We found that actually it came out quite nice. That rather surprising. We thought that it might be a bit of a tough call, but there were lots of interesting benefits. Yeah, good luck, Bristol, I think. Okay. Thank you.